Were you there at the time? Story time. Were
Story
you
time.
were you, were you there at the time where Josh cried? And not to put him on the spot, but I think it's such a great story where like his aunt died in the game, and he like had to like raise his or like explain his aunt dying to his nephew or something.
I was, and I'm not laughing. I'm laughing at Josh. I am. No, but I'm not laughing at the
No,
fact that he got into his role play. I think that's
yeah,
awesome.
I thought that was
Uh,
amazing.
it was, but I was there. I remember the aunt
Yeah,
hung, right?
yeah.
She was hung
She
at the
was
gallows.
hanging, so I think I was the reason she died.
Yeah, I think so too.
So I had shot an arrow, and I saved all the other characters that were hanging, and the one roll I had, like there was like three people in a line, so I shot an arrow, saved the first person, shot an arrow, saved the second person, shot an arrow, and I missed the third rope, and then his aunt ended up dying. I think that's what happened, if I
Yeah.
recall. But all I remember is Josh like so into his role play, and then like tears were coming out, and like him trying to have this conversation. I'm like, God damn, this is like this. And this was my first experience of like deep dive role play, right? And I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
like, oh shit, I'm like, this can get this deep. Like I know D&D goes hard.
Yeah. Yeah. It can. It can. I think that you asked earlier, like why, and I think it's the same. Why is there this mysticism around D&D, or why are there such hardcore fans? And I think that goes back to it, and whatever your chosen genre is, you have that. Uh, is that ability to connect with something outside of what your real life is, and bring that emotion to it, and it's cool as far as like your mind goes, because that imaginary emotion is no less real to your mind as like a real life emotion. If you're in it and you're living it, you're reliving it in that moment, then
Yeah.
to your mind it's still remorse, it's still sadness, it's still um like I remember campaigns from like the 90s, and I could think back to like certain periods where if I think those emotions just start coming back, and
Mhm.
I think that's a big part of the RPG.
So there is a book I read. Well, time out. Let me rephrase. And I want to be very clear to the audience. That's the 20 people that might see this clip. Um, you cannot say that you read a book if you listen to the audible version of that book. Drives me nuts. Oh, I read this book. No, nobody read any of the Game of Thrones books. Everybody listened to the audible books of Game of Thrones. Everybody's like, I read the Game of Thrones. No, you didn't. You're fucking lying. You listened to the audible book. Shut the fuck up. Big difference. I did not read this book. I listened to the audible book. I listened to the audible version of this book, called "Of Dice and Men."
Hmm.
Have you
I've
ever
I've
listened to
never
it?
read it. I've heard of it, but I've never read it, or
It's
heard it.
yeah, it's basically like this guy's love story with about D&D. And I listened to we did a book signing slash convention appearance in El Paso, Texas.
Mm.
And we were doing it for our Soul Survivor book. That the artist was from El Paso, so we drove to El Paso, and I made Josh listen to this Audible book as we went there. And it's basically just this guy's love obsession with, and he travels a lot. This guy's like, but I love playing D&D. So he would go to like local gaming stores, and he would keep playing the same character, but he would be joining other people's campaigns and just all across the country. And it was a really cool, like just how into it he was, right?
Mm.
And like his biggest thing was, I can go back and those moments that you have in game with people resonate, and you remember it, and like the emotion of it. It's like, I could tell stories like, hey, remember the time when we were going over that bridge, and one of us actually checked, and they put the coin in the bucket, and like that way we paid the troll toll to get across the other side. Like there's these moments that like you go on with a group, and you actually feel the sense of achievement and bonding,
Hmm.
and you get that from this game, which I think is so unique compared to anything else. Like even Warhammer, like I think that's a big comparable difference, if you will. I don't know if I just made up a word. Comparable difference. Is that even make sense? Is that an oxymoron?
I think it's great. That
Okay.
should be the name of this episode.
Comparable difference.
Yeah.
We should make T-shirts. Comparable difference.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's a huge difference between the two. Is like and maybe I could be wrong because I've never played Warhammer, but you don't get those same experiences of like camaraderie, of
Hmm.
like problem solving with a friend in terms of and there being emotional stakes. Whereas I feel like Warhammer is more like very strategic. It's very that's why I compared it to like Risk. You're trying to take over the world, right? Or you're trying to win this battle. Like you're a general on a field is like the
Hmm.
way I view Warhammer. At least from an outside looking in, I can be completely wrong. If there's role playing involved in it, then I'm so sorry for anybody listening to me be completely wrong. But um, those I think are two huge differences. But I think just having those experiences with friends, collaborative storytelling, and once you're in tune with your character and in touch with your character and actually feel through your character, the lens of your character, it can create some very powerful emotions.
Yeah, 100%.